What's going on, YouTube? How y'all doing? I hope y'all are doing great. Hey guys, I hit 1,000 subscribers, so pretty cool. Never thought I'd ever, never in a million years thought that 1,000 people would actually, subscribe to my channel. Whether or not 1,000 people actually watch my videos is another story. But thank you for that. Pretty cool. I'm not gonna monetize this channel right now. I be honest with you, I just don't want to set it up. I could run ads or whatever it is and get my little paycheck from YouTube, but I don't really need the money. And I really, honestly, guys, I never started this channel for money. I've told you that before. I'm gonna talk about what's going on. This channel is about a lot of things other than just automotive, so take it for what it is. I want to talk about what's going on a little bit. Some of you might follow me on social media. I'm a pretty outspoken person politically, and I'm a conservative, in case you don't know. Yeah, I love Donald Trump. I support him. He's our president, but I voted for him. I didn't like him at first. Honestly, I was a Ted Cruz guy. And some of you might not like this video. I'm going to tell you that right now, and that's fine. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love it. I'm just being honest with you. I'm one of those kind of guys that I'm not going to BS you, okay? I call a spade a spade. I didn't like Obama. Obama, when I was in the military, was one of the worst presidents we've ever had. It was the worst 8 years of my life as far as being a soldier. And now that I'm not in, I can say that, and I will say it proudly. I'm a conservative, guys. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh ever since I was 5 years old. Now you figure. Ever since I was 5 years old, I've been listening to Rush pretty routinely, probably daily. When I was 5 years old, of course, I didn't know about politics, really. My old man put on Rush on AM 1500. Could barely hear him. All the static and whatnot back in the 80s. But, I listened to Rush growing up. And I'm a Rush baby, I guess you could say. And I listen to Mark Levin. I like Tucker Carlson. I like myself some Hannity. And I do listen to NPR and the leftists too. I do listen to the leftists as hard as it is. But I'm a pretty politically driven guy. All right. I'm a pretty understanding guy. I have a very thin line when it comes to liberalism. I'm a conservative, so we've gotten to that point where the political divide's pretty polarized right now, and to be honest with you, it breaks my freaking heart. It breaks my heart to see, unrest, civil unrest on our streets, and in all the crap that's been going on. It really does. But what I wanted to say is I want to speak my mind. And I want to tell you that, what really bothers me, what really, really drives a nail in my rear end, and I'm going to try to keep my language under control for the sake of the video, but try to be somewhat professional, I guess. I was a punk kid, all right, guys. I was that anti-authority, that kind of guy to the law enforcement. I've had my run-ins with the law, okay? Me and law enforcement did not get along, okay? And I'm not a black man, and what happened to George Floyd and those police officers involved, in my opinion, those police officers should hang. Straight up. Anyone who murders someone, in my opinion, should hang. Publicly, by the way. I'm a firm believer that public execution should be a thing. Straight up. Like, if you commit murder and you're convicted of murder in a court of law, you should hang for it. And it should be public. Not only public for the adults, but for the children as well, as a deterrent. So that you understand that if you rape someone, you murder someone, you commit an act of just blatant evil, pedophilia, stuff like that, yeah, you should hang. You just straight up, like, you get your trial, you get your day in court, and once you're convicted, we hang you on Sunday, by the way. Once church gets out, we'll give them that. Call me cold-hearted, call me evil, whatever you want. I'm okay with the whole, execution thing. I think hanging sends a good message and makes an example out of you. Anyways, what's going on in America right now, particularly around the country, in all the major blue states, in all the predominantly Democrat-controlled states, should be an eye-opener, not only for for all Americans, really, but you gotta cut the BS, guys. It's time to look at things realistically. You're gonna sit there and say white supremacists are responsible? Like, really, our media is gonna go out there and say that white supremacists are responsible for all this crap that's going on? And I'm not talking about the protests or whatever. Okay, yeah, the protests were meant to be peaceful and whatever, but it's gotten out of hand, guys. I mean, and to sit there and blame our president, Trump, and to sit there and point the blame at him is just absurd. And if you're gonna sit there and go that route, clearly you're uneducated about how our country works. You have no idea of what the 10th Amendment and who's responsible for policing and who's responsible for the safety of the states as they are, as it's set up. That falls on the states, guys. That falls on the governors. That falls on the mayors. That falls on the localities, okay? That's what Donald Trump, our president, was trying to accomplish by stepping back and saying, hey, I'm going to let the governors handle the COVID-19 nonsense. We're not going to go there. That could be a whole separate video in itself, kind of the prequel to where we're at. But what did you expect was going to happen? You shut down our economy. You shut it down for how long? You shut down the engine that drives prosperity, that gives people money to feed their children, to pay their bills. Okay, I'm not talking just in the suburbs. I'm talking, that's in the hood. That's everywhere. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of the drugs in this country are purchased from the suburbs. So let's just cut the crap. And when the drug trade starts to take a dive, so does, the people providing the drugs. So we'll just leave it right there. Now you got all this looting going on. You got people just all this craziness going on, right? This 22-year-old girl, 22 years old, went to one of those rallies out in Davenport, Iowa. Okay, she was a peaceful protester, right? Peaceful protester. She's leaving, and she's shot dead. Yeah, that's what happened. Shot dead. Not by a police officer. Not by a white supremacist. She was shot dead by a protester. Who knows? Was it a black man, white man, green man? Does it really freaking matter? She was 22 years old. Murdered. And for what? For George Floyd? Is that who it was for? To end systemic racism or whatever the crap is, whatever the flavor of the month is for you leftists out there. I'm a conservative. Yeah, that's right. I'm a conservative. I was anti-authority, hated the cops. Skateboarder, still skate, by the way. Still skate. Still listen to punk rock, by the way. You know, think about that. Kind of messed up, right? I spent a lot of my life growing up in the trailer parks of Minnesota in Elk River. I grew up there. My grandmother watched me, and she had a trailer at the time. You know, now it's all changed, but you know, meth country. Trust me, it was the ghetto, predominantly white. Not a lot of money. You know, my grandfather, God rest his soul, was a union man, a steel worker, and me and him used to politically debate each other. He was a hardcore DFLer, and I always, you know, when I was growing up, my dad was a big Rush Limbaugh fan, and he used to listen to Rush Limbaugh on AM 1500 back in the 80s, right? So growing up, I would listen. I would have to. I didn't get a choice, you know. I'm 5, 6, 7 years old, and I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, you know, all through the 90s. I was listening to Rush on AM 1500, you know, barely could hear it, static. You know, anyone who's listening to AM radio, you know, that was my life, guys. That was my life growing up. You know, it was interesting. I watched the news a lot, guys. I remember watching the LA riots when I was a kid. I remember watching the Gulf War when I was a kid. You know, that was my growing up, okay? When I was an adult, you know, 9/11 had hit, and that's when, you know, after that I had joined the military and all that. But all I'm going to say is you know, a lot of what's going on today reminds me a lot of Iraq, okay? Reminds me a lot of what I experienced overseas. Reminds me a lot of what I've seen throughout my life, but not to the extent it's gotten, okay? It's really scary to think that my children are going to have to grow up in this kind of a society. I don't know what the answer is, all right? I don't know what the answer is. Well, no, you know what? I do know what the answer is. The answer is not where we're going, okay? The answer is people need to start taking, they need to start thinking straight about who is actually to blame for all this, okay? You know, you got the kid who grows up, and I'm going to use Minnesota as an example. Now, we have a city like Edina or Eden Prairie. These are upper, what you would call upper middle class white, predominantly white neighborhoods. Not my neighborhood. Trust me, I did not grow up there. My dad did live in Minnetonka because he was a paramedic, and Minnetonka is pretty upscale in Minnesota as far as things go, but I didn't live with my dad, you know. I lived with my mother out in St. Michael, Albertville, like farm country, okay? I grew up in the rural area. St. Michael, Albertville now in Minnesota has turned into kind of like that now. It's kind of an upper middle class area, but back then it wasn't. And back then I would go to daycare at my grandmother's in Elk River, or actually Otsego, which is like a city or a township of Elk River, okay? And that was like predominantly trailer park, guys. Meth country, drugs, poor white area. You know, I've done some time in jail in Hennepin County down in Minneapolis. I've done some time in jail in Anoka County. I've done some time in jail in Plymouth. I've done some time Okay, I've made some mistakes in my life. I served in the military. I've made mistakes in the military. I've been reprimanded in the military, but I was a good leader in the military and I did good things in the military. Nevertheless, I'm just telling you that I was not perfect and I made a lot of mistakes. And one thing I can tell you from my experience, yeah, I'm rocking the COVID haircut. It is what it is, guys. You might not like it, whatever. I feel like I'm back, literally back in like 98. Would that be like 98 rocking this? Yeah. Nirvana. What I was going to say is, you know, I grew up, I became a father. I was married. I got divorced. I went through a deployment. I'm with another gal. I have a child with another gal. She's in the military. She's actually down in Minneapolis right now dealing with all this crap. And I'm alone with my kids now watching them. And being the stay-at-home dad and working full-time as a technician. And it really hurts me to see this going on. Why? Well, it hurts me because I see people using people, and I see the inner city. You hear them talking about, Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and all this, and I totally understand. Yes, okay, we have racism in America. We've always had racism in America, and it's never going to change, guys. It's never going to change. You think it's going to change, but it's not. And here's why it's not. Because you can't change people. You can't change how they feel. You really want to make change in this country? Walking around with a sign saying, we need to change this or change that, or this matters or that matters, or this person or that. It doesn't matter. Put anything on a sign. Put a button on your chest, okay, saying you care. You don't care for nothing, all right? If you really cared, if you young college students, and let's be honest, okay, guys, 90%, I would say 90, maybe 85, I don't know. I don't have the exact statistics, but I would say a vast majority of the individuals down there peacefully protesting, all right, are college students, white kids, maybe some black kids, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're kids, okay? They're down there. They're protesting. They got their cause, okay? And in their mind, they're doing the right thing, okay? And I'm not discrediting that. I'm not trying to discredit it at all. In a lot of aspects, I agree with a lot of what they're saying, okay? Nobody is saying we don't agree with that. And the cops that did what they did to George Floyd should hang. Not get, they'll get their trial. Everyone gets a trial, get a fair trial. Well, they're not going to get a fair trial anymore, let's just be honest, but they should hang. For sure the guy who committed the act. Maybe the other guys get some time or whatever, X amount of years, but I would say second degree murder for the guy who knelt on him and did what he did. He deserves second degree murder, and I think second degree murder, you should hang. Not get shot, not get lethal injection, you should hang. That's my opinion. I'm just a firm believer that, execution is the way to handle it, okay? Publicly, by the way, on Sunday, right after church. And make sure the kids see it as well to set an example. And some of you are going to disagree with what I just said, and that's fine. You can. But I think that it's a deterrent. I think that that's the way to do it. I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus Christ. I'm not saying anything against any of that. And some of you are going to disagree with what I just said. But, you take somebody's life, you rape somebody, you're a pedophile. Rape, pedophile, and murder. Cold-blooded murder, you deserve to hang. I'm just going to put it out there. But anyways, getting back on to what I was saying, you can sit down there and wear a button all you want. and think you're making a change. You ain't making no change. You ain't making no change. You want to make a change? Okay? Trust me. I did 12 years in the service, four of which were active. Okay? And I worked full-time for the federal government for a few of those years. You have to be in the system to make change, guys. You don't make change outside of the system. Okay? You might think you do. You might think that you're getting the ear of whoever's in charge. Okay? You're not making no change. They'll tell you, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to investigate. Okay, Governor Walz, perfect example. Governor Walz came out and said he's going to investigate the Minneapolis Police Department. And you think, okay, great. We're going to have all this change now. They're going to pass all these new regulations and all these new things, and they're going to prosecute people. It ain't happening, guys. It ain't happening. You want to make change, sign your name on a line, go to the police academy as a 22, 20-year-old, or whatever age you are. If you're over the age of 18, you go sign your name, you go to the police academy, and you become a cop. And you move your way up. And that is how you make change. You do not make change by going down and protesting. Okay? You can protest all you want. It's your right. It's your right. I'm just being real with you. You want to make change. You ain't making no change walking. You ain't making no change making some chant. You ain't making no change by putting this little fancy little button on your chest. Ain't no change coming. You want to make change? You need to be in the system. You want to make change? You have to be in the system. In it. Whether that be a politician, whether that be a cop, whether that be a mayor, whether it be a city council member, whether that be a delegate, grassroots, vote. That's how you make change in this country. You don't make change by going down to your local store and breaking down the window and looting it and acting like a freaking anarchist. You don't make change that way. You don't make change by peacefully protesting with your little bullhorn, arm to arm. Ain't no change coming. You think it is. You're naive. Look it up. You know what naive means? Look it up. Could being a fool. Anyone who works in the government knows what I'm talking about. Anyone who works in the system knows what I'm talking about. You want to make change, you have to be in the system. You're outside the system, you ain't making no change. Unless you got a lot of money. And I bet you, considering most of you down there protesting on a Monday, probably don't have a job. No offense. COVID-19, they probably took it from you, which I don't agree with. Whole nother subject. You ain't making no change. You ain't making no change. You can sit there and say you are. Call me a racist. Call me a bigot. Call me whatever you want. Hey, I'm all down. I think it was horrible what happened to George Floyd. I'm not a black man. How the hell am I going to relate to a brother in the hood? How am I, as a white man who grew up in a fucking, excuse my language, in a freaking trailer park, going to relate to a black man in the hood? Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Who are you trying to fool, by the way? Who are you trying to fool? Who are you trying to fool? You think you have something in common with the hood? You think you have something in common with the ghetto as a white kid from Edina? Get out of here. Get out of here. Ain't never spent one day probably in jail. Ain't never spent one day in a war zone. Ain't never seen real oppression. Ain't never been profiled by the cops. I've been profiled by the cops. You want to know how I've been profiled by the cops? It ain't been because of my skin. You want to talk about system? You want to talk about a problem with the system? Let me tell you about a problem with the system. Let me tell you about the system. Okay, this is how it works. You get in trouble with the law, okay? Let's say you're 18 years old. You get in trouble with the law. Let's say you get pulled over for DWI. DWI, okay? Driving while intoxicated. 18 years old, you're at a party. Boom, you decide to drive. You get pulled over. You get a DWI. That's expensive, okay? You better hope you got some rich parents. They're going to take your license, okay? How are you going to get to work? How are you going to pay the fines? How are you going to pay your insurance? You're going to just do it anyways, right? And guess what? You're going to keep driving. Trust me, I've been there. And then you're going to get pulled over. Then they're going to take your car. Then you got to get it out of impound. Then you're going to have to go to court. Then they're going to throw your ass in jail for a weekend. And that's how it starts. Then you're going to go to court. And they're going to take your license for another 90 days. How are you going to get to work? How are you going to get anything done? I did a lot of walking, guys. A lot of walking in my day. That's why I was good in the military. When they told me I had to march 10K, I'm like, really? Walk in the park. It's a snowball effect. And anyone who's ever been in it knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's a snowball effect. Maybe you have kids. Okay? You want to talk about the brothers on the street. Okay? This is one thing I do have in common with the brothers. Okay? You might have kids, right? You have to pay child support. In Minnesota, and this is our state, in Minnesota, if you don't pay your child support, you know what they do? They take your driver's license. How in the hell is a man supposed to pay his child support if you take his driver's license? How is he supposed to get to work? Now, in a warm state, that might not be a big deal because you can walk your ass to work. You do that in Minnesota in January. I walked my ass 5 miles to work. No joke. No joke. In January, in negative 30 degrees. You always hear that story. I used to walk negative 30. I had to walk my ass to school. Yeah, well, guess what? I actually did it. So, you want to talk about the system, huh? That's how the system's designed. And guess what? Second you start driving, even when you're legal and white, they run your plates. That's what cops do. They run your plates, right? Oh, this guy, let's run his plates, see what's going on. They do it to even innocent civilians. You don't think cops run your plates? They run them all the time. They can do it. Nothing illegal about it. All they need is probable cause to pull you over. And I'm not bashing cops here. I'm all for law enforcement. They're just doing their job. You know? Growing up, realize that. I worked with a lot of the cops in the National Guard. Good guys, okay? Not all cops are great. I mean, there are bad cops. There's bad people. Duh. But they run your plates, right? Oh, this guy. Driving without license. Driving after revocation. DWI. Looks like his taillight's out. Looks like he's kind of going over the line a little bit. Better pull him over. Had anything to drink tonight, son? Chances are, you probably did. And you probably are screwing up again. Or maybe not. Maybe not. But maybe you don't have insurance this time because you couldn't afford it. Because you're just trying to get to work and you're trying to just squeeze by for that 90 days they took your license this time. Boom. Nailed again. They impound your car. Now it's gross misdemeanor. Another 90 days in jail. Oh, yeah, we'll give you some sentence to serve. We'll take your license for another 6 months. How are you supposed to get to work? How are you supposed to pay those fines? How are you supposed to pay your insurance? See where I'm going with this? Snowball effect. That right there. That is one thing I have in common. Myself. With the brother on the street. Now, any of you kids in Edina have anything in common with that? Any of you little protesters down there with your little button have anything in common with that? Or did mommy and daddy bail your ass out? I'm going to leave it right there.